In this episode, we are stepping into a topic that can sound large and formal at first, but becomes much easier to understand once you connect it to everyday organizational decisions. And that topic is enterprise architecture, EA alignment. New learners sometimes hear that phrase and imagine a huge technical diagram hanging on a wall somewhere, full of boxes, arrows, and specialized language that only senior engineers can understand. The truth is much simpler and much more useful. EA is really about how an organization structures its business processes, data, applications, technology, and supporting decisions so they work together in a deliberate way instead of growing in random directions. When auditors evaluate EA alignment, they are asking whether the design and evolution of information technology, IT, supports the goals of the business, fits the way the organization wants to operate, and reduces confusion, waste, and unnecessary risk. That is why this topic matters so much, because poor alignment often creates expensive complexity that people feel long before they know what to call it. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A strong starting point is to define EA in plain language. EA is the broad structure that helps explain how an organization's business needs connect to its systems, information, technology choices, and change efforts over time. It is not only about hardware and software, and it is not only about technical standards either. It is a way of organizing thinking so the company can make better decisions about how different parts of the environment should fit together. That includes business processes, data flows, major applications, technology platforms, integration points, and the rules or principles that guide future decisions. Alignment exists when those choices support the organization's strategy, operations, risk appetite, and growth plans in a sensible and coordinated way. Misalignment happens when systems are added without clear purpose, when data is scattered across incompatible platforms, when business goals change but technology design does not, or when different teams solve similar problems in inconsistent ways that increase cost and confusion. One of the most important lessons for beginners is that EA is not the same thing as a one-time design project. Some people imagine it as a blueprint completed once and then stored away, but that view misses the real purpose. Organizations change all the time. They acquire other companies, open new lines of business, retire old services, face new regulations, move to new delivery models, and adopt new tools. Because of that, EA alignment is not a fixed state that can be achieved once and forgotten. It is an ongoing relationship between the business and the technology environment that supports it. Evaluating alignment means asking whether the architecture still makes sense given the organization's current goals, operating model, and risk conditions. A system that fit the business 5 years ago may now create inefficiency or control weakness. A data structure that once worked for a smaller company may become a serious barrier when the organization needs faster reporting, stronger governance, or more consistent customer service across multiple channels. This topic matters because architecture decisions shape the daily reality of the organization, even when ordinary users never hear the term EA. If the architecture is reasonably aligned, employees can usually move through processes with fewer delays, fewer duplicate entries, and fewer confusing handoffs between systems. Managers can get more reliable reporting, projects can build on existing capabilities more effectively, and security or control requirements can be applied more consistently across the environment. When alignment is weak, the opposite tends to happen. Staff members work around system limitations. Departments maintain separate databases to solve local problems. Interfaces multiply. Change becomes harder, and technical debt grows quietly in the background. From an audit perspective, those are not just efficiency problems. They are signs that the organization may be spending more than necessary, increasing operational risk, and making it harder to govern information and technology in a disciplined way. EA alignment matters because structure affects everything built on top of it. A useful way to understand evaluation is to think first about business alignment. The central question is whether the architecture reflects how the organization actually creates value and how it plans to operate in the future. If the business strategy depends on fast customer onboarding, cross-channel service, expansion into new markets, or stronger regulatory reporting, then the architecture should support those goals rather than fight them. Auditors therefore look for evidence that business priorities influence architecture decisions in a visible and intentional way. They want to know whether leaders understand what capabilities the organization needs and whether major systems, data structures, and technology directions are being shaped around those needs. Weak alignment often appears when technology choices are made mainly because they are familiar, fashionable, or convenient for one team rather than because they support enterprise goals. Strong alignment usually shows a clear connection between strategic objectives and the way applications, information, and platforms are organized across the business. Another important idea is that EA usually includes both a current state and a future state. The current state describes what the environment looks like now, including its systems, dependencies, processes, and limitations. The future state reflects what the organization wants the environment to become in order to support changing needs more effectively. Evaluating alignment means examining whether the organization understands both of those states in a realistic way and whether there is a credible path between them. Some organizations talk confidently about modernization or transformation, but cannot explain where they are starting from, which makes planning weak from the beginning. Others know their current environment well, but have no coherent picture of where they are heading, so projects are approved in isolation without improving overall consistency. Auditors pay attention to this because alignment is not only about whether a vision sounds attractive. It is also about whether the organization has enough architectural understanding to move from present reality toward intended business support without creating unnecessary disruption, duplication, or unmanaged risk. Principles and standards also play a major role in EA alignment because they help turn broad architectural intent into consistent decisions. Without them, each project team or department may choose tools, interfaces, data structures, or design approaches based on local preference, creating a fragmented landscape over time. Good architectural principles are not meant to be decorative statements. They provide practical guidance about how the organization wants to build, connect, simplify, secure, and maintain its environment. Standards help reinforce that guidance by defining accepted approaches that reduce unnecessary variation. When auditors evaluate alignment, they often ask whether such principles exist, whether they are understood, and whether they influence decisions in real life. It is possible for an organization to publish architecture documents and still have poor alignment if those materials are ignored whenever schedules tighten or business pressure rises. Real alignment is visible not only in written guidance, but in repeated choices that reflect shared design priorities across projects, platforms, and departments. Data is one of the clearest places where alignment or misalignment becomes visible. If an organization has weak EA alignment, the same customer, product, employee, or financial information may exist in multiple systems with different meanings, different update cycles, and different ownership expectations. That creates confusion, reconciliation effort, poor reporting quality, and control challenges. Stronger alignment does not mean every piece of data must live in one system, but it does mean the organization has a clearer view of what important information means, where it is maintained, how it moves, and how consistency is preserved. Auditors evaluating EA alignment pay close attention to whether data architecture supports business and control needs. If leadership wants integrated reporting but critical data remains fragmented and inconsistent, that is a sign of misalignment. If privacy, classification, or retention obligations exist, but data flows are poorly understood, that also points to deeper architectural weakness. Data alignment matters because information is often the thread that connects operations, decision-making, compliance, and trust. Applications are another major focus, because organizations often reveal their architectural habits through the way software accumulates over time. In a well-aligned environment, applications generally have clearer roles, known dependencies, and a more understandable relationship to business capabilities. In a poorly aligned environment, similar functions may be spread across overlapping tools, legacy systems may remain in place without a clear rationale, and interfaces may grow so complex that change becomes risky and expensive. Auditors are not looking for a perfect or minimal application portfolio in every case, because organizations have history, constraints, and valid reasons for some duplication. What matters is whether management understands the application landscape and whether decisions about adoption, retirement, integration, and replacement reflect enterprise priorities rather than isolated team preferences. When application sprawl grows without strong architectural guidance, the business often pays for it through slower projects, inconsistent user experience, weaker reporting, and greater dependence on a small number of people who understand the maze of connections. The technology layer matters as well, but beginners should be careful not to reduce EA alignment to infrastructure standardization alone. Servers, networks, cloud platforms, endpoints, and shared technical services all matter, yet alignment is broader than choosing a common platform. The real question is whether the technology foundation supports the business and application needs above it in a manageable, secure, and sustainable way. Sometimes organizations create misalignment by adopting new technology faster than their architecture, operating model, or skills can support. In other cases, they remain tied to old platforms that no longer fit current business demands, but continue postponing change because short-term disruption feels uncomfortable. Auditors evaluating technology alignment may look for unnecessary complexity, unsupported components, excessive variation, weak integration patterns, or platform decisions that conflict with the organization's stated direction. A healthy architectural environment does not chase novelty for its own sake, and it does not cling to legacy design simply because it is familiar. It aims for fit, clarity, and manageable evolution. Projects and change initiatives provide another powerful lens for evaluation because architecture alignment is tested most visibly when the organization tries to build or change something important. A mature environment usually has some way to review major initiatives against architectural principles, target state goals, integration expectations, data considerations, and long-term maintainability. This does not mean architecture should block every new idea or slow the business unnecessarily. It means the organization should avoid repeating the same pattern of approving local solutions that solve immediate needs while making the enterprise environment harder to manage. Auditors often examine whether architectural review happens early enough to matter, whether exceptions are controlled, and whether projects are contributing to a more coherent environment or simply adding more disconnected components. Weak alignment often shows up when every project seems individually justified, yet the overall environment becomes increasingly fragmented. Strong alignment appears when change efforts support business goals while also moving the architecture in a direction that improves consistency, visibility, and operational resilience over time. A simple example can make this topic feel more concrete. Imagine a growing healthcare organization that wants patients to move smoothly between clinic visits, online scheduling, billing, and follow-up communication. Leadership expects a connected experience, but over the years different departments have purchased separate applications for appointments, records, billing, messaging, and reporting. Each tool may work reasonably well on its own, yet patient information is duplicated, updates do not always flow correctly, and staff must re-enter data across multiple systems. The business goal is an integrated service experience, but the architecture does not support it. An auditor looking at EA alignment would see more than inconvenience. The auditor would notice operational inefficiency, reporting inconsistency, data integrity concerns, privacy risks, and rising support complexity. That example shows why EA alignment is not an academic exercise. It affects whether the environment can support the actual way the organization wants to serve people, measure performance, and control information as the business grows. There are also common misconceptions that auditors and learners should watch for. One is the belief that alignment means complete uniformity, as if every department must use the exact same tools and patterns no matter what. In reality, some variation is reasonable and even necessary when business needs differ in meaningful ways. The goal is not forced sameness. The goal is disciplined design, where variation is intentional, justified, and governed rather than accidental or uncontrolled. Another misconception is that EA is only the responsibility of architects or senior technologists. Business leaders, project sponsors, data owners, risk managers, and auditors all influence alignment, because their decisions shape how systems are selected, funded, connected, and maintained. A third misconception is that architecture work slows progress by adding bureaucracy. Poor architecture can certainly become bureaucratic, but strong EA alignment usually reduces friction over time because it prevents repeated reinvention, unclear integration, and expensive local solutions that create long-term complexity. From an audit perspective, evaluating EA alignment means gathering evidence that the organization understands its environment, has a reasoned direction for its architecture, and uses governance to connect technology decisions to business goals. That evidence may include strategy documents, architecture principles, target state materials, application and data inventories, project review records, standards, exception approvals, investment rationales, and interviews with both business and technology leaders. Auditors compare what the organization says it wants with what the environment actually shows. If leadership claims it wants simplified operations but continues funding overlapping systems without retirement planning, that mismatch matters. If the stated strategy depends on better data use, but critical information remains scattered with weak ownership, that matters too. The goal is not to demand ideal architecture in every case. The goal is to judge whether the organization's structure and change decisions are moving in a coherent direction that supports performance, control, resilience, and manageable growth instead of allowing fragmentation to deepen over time. As we close, the main lesson is that evaluating enterprise architecture alignment is really about asking whether the organization's technology environment makes sense for the business it is trying to be. EA is not just a technical map or a library of standards. It is a way of ensuring that business goals, data, applications, platforms, and future change efforts fit together well enough to support value, control, and adaptability. When alignment is strong, the organization usually experiences clearer decision-making, better integration, more usable information, and less wasteful complexity. When alignment is weak, the environment may still function, but often at the cost of growing duplication, hidden risk, and rising difficulty every time change is needed. For an auditor, this topic matters because architecture quietly shapes the success or failure of many other controls and processes. When the structure underneath the enterprise is reasonably aligned with strategy and operations, the organization is far better positioned to evolve without losing clarity, efficiency, or control.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.